Learning difficulties. When children don't seem to be developing or learning in the typical pattern, one might be assessed for a disorder or disability. What is a learning disorder or disability? In the next section, we'll learn about the spectrum of disorders and how they may impact many areas of the child's life. A learning disorder is a classification of disorders in which a person has difficulty learning in a typical manner within one of several domains. Types of learning disorders include difficulties in reading, dyslexia, mathematics, dyscalculia, and writing, dysgraphia. These disorders are diagnosed with certain criteria. A learning disability has problems in a specific area or within a specific task or type of activity related to education. Children with learning challenges are usually identified in school because this is when their academic abilities are being tested, compared, and measured. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, a qualified person will make a diagnosis, identify causes, and will make a treatment plan for disorders and disabilities. The diagnosis of specific learning disorder was added to the DSM-5 in 2013. The DSM does not require that a single domain of difficulty, such as reading, mathematics, or written expression, be identified. Instead, it is a single diagnosis that describes a collection of potential difficulties with general academic skills, simply including detailed specifics for the areas of reading, mathematics, and writing. Academic performance must be below average in at least one of these fields, and the symptoms may also interfere with daily life or work. In addition, the learning difficulties cannot be attributed to other sensory, motor, developmental, or neurological disorders. Learning disorders: dyslexia, reading; dyscalculia, mathematics; dyspraxia, motor coordination; dysgraphia, writing; auditory processing disorder, hearing; visual processing disorder, visual; speech and language disorders, aphasia, loss of language, expressive and receptive; articulation disorder, and articulation disorder; fluency disorders, voice disorders, disorders of the voice. Learning disorders or disabilities. Dyslexia. Dyslexia, sometimes called reading disorder, is the most common learning disability. Of all students with specific learning disabilities, 70% to 80% have deficits in reading. The term developmental dyslexia is often used as a catch-all term, but researchers assert that dyslexia is just one of several types of reading disabilities. A reading disability can affect any part of the reading process, including word recognition, word decoding, reading speed, prosody, oral reading with expression, and reading comprehension. Dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a form of math-related disability that involves difficulties with learning math-related concepts, such as quantity, place value, and time, memorizing math-related facts, organizing numbers, and understanding how problems are organized on the page. Children with dyscalculia are often referred to as having poor number sense. Dyspraxia. Children who have motor skills substantially below what is expected for their age are diagnosed with dyspraxia, or developmental coordination disorder, DCD, as it is more formally known. They are not lazy, clumsy, or unintelligent. In fact, their intellectual ability is in line with the general population, but they do struggle with everyday tasks that require coordination. Dysgraphia. The term dysgraphia is often used as an overarching term for all disorders of written expression. Individuals with dysgraphia typically show multiple writing-related deficiencies, such as grammatical and punctuation errors within sentences, poor paragraph organization, multiple spelling errors, and excessively poor penmanship. Auditory processing disorder. A processing deficit in the auditory modality that spans multiple processes is auditory processing disorder, APD. To date, APD diagnosis is mostly based on the utilization of speech material. Unfortunately, acceptable non-speech tests that allow differentiation between an actual central hearing disorder and related disorders, such as specific language impairments, are still not adequately available. Visual processing disorder. Difficulty processing or interpreting visual information is referred to as visual processing disorder, VPD. Kids with visual processing issues may have difficulty telling the difference between two shapes or finding a specific piece of information on a page. Summary of learning disabilities. Dyslexia, difficulty with reading, problems with reading, writing, and spelling. Dyscalculia, difficulty with math, problems with doing math problems, understanding time, and using money. Dyspraxia, sensory integration disorder, difficulty with fine motor skills, problems with hand-eye coordination, balance, and manual dexterity. Dysgraphia, difficulty with writing, problems with handwriting, spelling, and organizing ideas. Auditory processing disorder, difficulty hearing the difference between sounds, problems with reading, comprehension, and language. Visual processing disorder, difficulty interpreting visual information, problems with reading, math, maps, charts, symbols, and pictures. Speech and language disorders, aphasia, a loss of the ability to produce or understand language is referred to as aphasia. Without the brain, there would be no language. The human brain has a few areas that are specific to language processing and production. When these areas are damaged or injured, capabilities for speaking or understanding can be lost, a disorder known as aphasia. These areas must function together in order for a person to develop, use, and understand language. Articulation disorder. An articulation disorder refers to the inability to correctly produce speech sounds, phonemes, because of imprecise placement, timing, pressure, speed, or flow of movement of the lips, tongue, or throat. Sounds could be substituted, left off, added, or changed. These errors make it hard for people to understand the speaker. They can range from problems with specific sounds, such as lisping, to severe impairment in the phonological system. Most children have problems pronouncing words early on while their speech is developing. However, by age 3, at least half of what a child says should be understood by a stranger. By age 5, a child's speech should be mostly intelligible. Parents should seek help if by age 6, the child is still having trouble producing certain sounds. It should be noted that accents are not articulation disorders. Fluency disorders. Fluency disorders affect the rate of speech. Speech may be labored and slow, or too fast for listeners to follow. The most common fluency disorder is stuttering. Stuttering is a speech disorder in which sounds, syllables, or words are repeated or last longer than normal. These problems cause a break in the flow of speech, which is called disfluency. About 5% of young children, aged 2 to 5, will develop some stuttering that may last several weeks to several years. Approximately 75% of children recover from stuttering. For the remaining 25%, stuttering can persist as a lifelong communication disorder. This is called developmental stuttering and is the most common form of stuttering. Brain injury and, in very rare instances, emotional trauma may be other triggers for developing problems with stuttering. In most cases of developmental stuttering, other family members share the same communication disorder. Researchers have recently identified variants in 4 genes that are more commonly found in those who stutter. Voice disorders. Disorders of the voice involve problems with pitch, loudness, and quality of the voice. It only becomes a disorder when problems with the voice make the child unintelligible. In children, voice disorders are significantly more prevalent in males than in females. Between 1.4% and 6% of children experience problems with the quality of their voice. Causes can be due to structural abnormalities in the vocal cords and/or larynx, functional factors such as vocal fatigue from overuse, and, in more rare cases, psychological factors such as chronic stress and anxiety.